One set.
Camera rolling.
Sound.
The good.
The bad.
And the just plain standard. Take one.
Salut.
Hey!
Alright.
Welcome back to The Good, The Bad, and the Just Plain Standard podcast, where we provide you with our informed opinions on movies we watched together. We are your hosts,
Adam.
Anouk.
and Yann. Today is all about Our Magic, a documentary. Jingle. Guest introduction. Ooh, ooh. Guest introduction. Ooh, ooh, guest introduction. Hey, Mahdi. Who are you and what are you doing here?
Hi, so my name is Mahdi the Magician, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Our Magic, and it's a film that I was in, and also anything that you want to know about my magic.
Awesome. Can you tell us a bit how you came into the project?
Yeah, so I knew Paul Wilson and Dan and Dave for a while, and when they first announced the project, I backed it on Kickstarter, and then I'm not too sure on the timeline, but I think a few weeks later, Paul Wilson sent me an email saying that he wanted to talk to me about something, but there was not any more information on that. And the way that he wrote the email, I thought that I was in trouble or something. So I was afraid that I'm like, okay. And I emailed Paul Wilson back, and I said, yeah, I can talk to you whenever. And we set up a phone call, and we were talking and everything, and he asked if I could be in the film. And at first I was a little bit uncomfortable, just because everyone in the film is so much more experienced than me in the world of magic. They've been in magic their whole lives, and I'm still a baby in magic.
Okay, great. The way I got into it, I also kickstarted. Well, I knew Paul via a friend, and I kickstarted at the level that I actually got to. Well, that's where I met you. I went to MagicCon.
Yeah, great convention.
So and I knew Paul from a friend, and since 2014, actually, Paul. So I shifted completely. I was in wine before. And I completely shifted now. Thanks to Paul, I am now with those guys here in Glasgow. We just did the acting training last year together.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, Paul was telling me about that and how much he enjoyed it and how valuable it was for him. Yes, no, that's just so cool that you got to go there. Because I was actually in Glasgow with him as well when we did the interview for the film.
Okay, great. This MagicCon I was in 2014. So we've seen in the show they talk about the at some point conventions. It's not developed, but this MagicCon was very nice because it was a mix of TED Talks and other talks from people of the industry. There was a guy in marketing who has plenty of people with passion for magic, but who have, well, I won't say real jobs, but I mean, like it was really not the same conventions we used to go to, which was very nice.
Yeah, no, Dan and Dave are really smart, and I'm really glad that their convention is different than a lot of conventions. And they haven't done it, I think, since 2004. I think that was the last year. And they sort of went off, and they're doing what they call Cardistry Con now, which is their convention for the art of cardistry, which is playing card manipulation. And it's really interesting, the format that they're using for that, and it's been growing really, really beautifully. So I hope they take what they learned from MagicCon and CardistryCon and continue MagicCon in the future. I don't know what their plans are. They keep talking about bringing it back, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. It was really nice. And so that's Dan and Dave Buck. It's twins in magic. And they started as cardists and card artists and stuff.
Not the Dan and Dave responsible for Game of Thrones.
No. Okay, I don't know if we can talk about... I saw you on your Instagram, Mahdi.
Yes.
So you have, well, kind of the same problem I have with the last name, that nobody will get it right at any point in the English-speaking world. So, you prefer to go by just Mahdi the Magician, right?
Honestly, I just don't think Gilbert is a good magic stage name. So I started using Mahdi the Magician a while ago, and usually they bill me as Mahdi the Magician, but sometimes they put Mahdi Gilbert, which I kind of hate. I don't tell anyone how much I hate it, but it does bother me. Just because it doesn't feel like a magical name.
Yeah, I mean, when we met in San Diego, well, in MagicCon, you said you have French origins. So is that actually because in one of the episodes, the one I talked about you earlier, so
Yeah.
your actual name is Gilbert, or is it actually Gilbert?
Yeah, it's Gilbert, but oftentimes I'm performing in the US and nobody knows how to say that.
Shame.
Oh dear.
Gilbert sounds so much better.
It is. You can't train a whole population to start speaking with a French accent.
We should.
That's very true, yeah. I also hear you were on TV a few days ago in a show with a viewership approximating the total population of the USA. Can you talk a bit about what is that?
So it's pretty crazy. I got contacted a few months ago by one of my magician friends in China asking me if I wanted to do a TV show. And I said, okay, I've never been to China. And we were talking on and off with the producers, and I didn't think it was going to happen because they kept changing the dates and there were a lot of little problems. And then maybe a week before, they're like, we finalized everything. We want you over in China right now.
Wow.
So I rushed to go get my visa. I flew to China, and I did this TV show, which is right now the number one show in China. The government of China wanted to make magic big in China, and they want to put Chinese magicians on the world stage. They want China to become known for having good magic. So they heavily invested in it and heavily promoted it, and they asked me to help them and be a part of it. So I went, and the episode that I was in, I don't know the exact numbers. All I know is that it's right now the number one show, and they told me that when it goes live, it's approximately 270 million viewers in China. And then afterwards, with the internet views and all that, it'll probably get close to, I don't know, maybe half a billion, three-quarters of a billion, maybe a billion. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's pretty crazy.
That's a crazy platform for magic as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Well, it is crazy because, the biggest TV show I did, I think before that, was Penn and Teller. And that has a viewership of only a few million people, 3 million, 4 million. Obviously, there's more people who watch it when it's put on Netflix and reruns and on the internet. But, we're talking about hundreds of millions of people. There's a certain percentage now of the world who has seen my magic. So it's pretty crazy for me just to think about that.
Wow.
Well, you know what? I'm just thinking right now, I'm a bit surprised that China is pushing magic because, that they banned time travel movies in China.
It's very tricky there with what they want to allow on for entertainment. So I don't know. All I know is I can't speak too much about it just because I'm not an expert. But I'm just happy that they're promoting magic and promoting Chinese magicians, and hopefully they can really get into the history of Chinese magic, because there's a beautiful history of magic in all of Asia, and hopefully they can tap into that.
Great. I'd just like now to give a few words. So when it was released after the Kickstarter ended, the backers had it a bit early on Vimeo. And to sum up what it is about, in the Vimeo description it says, it's a film about magic by magicians. 31 of magic's most respected thinkers, performers, and creators discuss the real secrets, air quotes, of magic. An open and honest conversation, a rare and revealing peek behind the curtain of the much maligned and misunderstood art form. Would you say it's quite accurate?
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of movies made about magic. Well, not a lot, but there's enough movies made about magic. And most of them always portray magic in a very unrealistic light. I'm never really satisfied of any of the movies I've seen about magic. Probably my favorite movies about magic are, The Prestige and The Illusionist. Just because they, even though they're very fake in a way, they capture sort of what people's romanticized version of a magician is. But having this movie where it's just magicians talking about magic it's definitely different, and hopefully it will make people interested in seeing the magic of the people in the documentary, because all of them are, amazing at what they do.
I quite like how it usually when you think about a documentary about magic, it's going to be like you're going to see loads of tricks and you're going to be amazed. But I think this one especially, it was more refreshing to see like professionals talking about their craft, because you rarely see that, and if you do, it's always like obviously the questions you must get all the time of, oh, how do you do that? It's the same for actors. Everyone gets the same block of questions, and I'm sure it's for magicians, even I don't know them off the top of my head. So I felt that was quite nice to see a totally different side to a genre of entertainment that some people don't even really consider as a viable entertainment. I thought it was really sweet.
I felt it didn't really feel as a documentary. So yeah, Mahdi just talked film. It felt like one. There is just one single question that is asked by someone who was not on screen at the first. It was, what is magic? I think it was. And the rest was just a beautiful storytelling, leading us places and with twists. And it was very interestingly designed.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. And I have mixed feelings because there's no magic in the documentary. Or at least there's very, very little magic. Maybe I do a color change, and there might be some other scene that you see magic happening, because they show Juan Esteban Varela, I think, talking about his Magic in the Dark show. And you see little snippets of it, but you never see a full effect. And it's interesting, I think, for the viewer, because they don't see magic from it. And I think people are probably expecting to see magic from a magic documentary, but you don't see it. You only hear about it. And it's interesting because I know a lot about magic, and I know what magic is like. So I'm just very curious what regular people who are not familiar with magic, when they see it, how they feel, if it makes them interested in seeing magic.
Well, you know what? You've got two of those.
Yeah.
Hey.
I didn't really think about magic beforehand, and obviously Yann talks about it so much, and I know that our coach Mark Westbrook sometimes goes to these magic shows, or he goes with you, Yann, and then of course Paul Wilson goes a lot, and so suddenly it's just like everyone's talking about this, and it's like, what is it about? And of course immediately you think, and they say this in the documentary, they talk about like children's parties, and that's probably the first thing that comes into your head,
or in a bar,
and that's probably mega insulting. Because it's like so much bigger than most. It's so much bigger than that.
It's like saying all actors are cruise line performers, that sort of thing. Like it's nails down into one specific type of performer. Yeah. Rather than seeing it as a whole, which I think is quite a narrow way to see it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I think we're to blame for that. I think magicians are to blame for that. To tell you the truth, I think there have been a lot of bad magicians. Magic is so popular because it's so easy to learn in some ways. It's very easy for somebody to learn a trick. So you have, I don't know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people running around pretending that they're magicians. And they don't really know or care about magic. And so they bring the reputation of magic down. And there haven't been enough good magicians to change the public's opinion about magic, to give it a good reputation. So I think it's our fault why people think magic is for kids, and we wear clown noses and all that stuff.
Yeah, I even remember Yann talking about but what is it in Edinburgh? It's a specific
Magic Fest.
Magic Fest. Yeah, you talking about that last year, and I was like, "There's a festival for magic." And then obviously Yann started showing me some videos he'd taken and stuff. I was like, I'm blown away. I'm like, wow, of course there is this whole other side. Because I remember from me and you, Anouk, we used to watch the Fulos Penn and Teller, because it was on Netflix.
Yes.
Which is, it's very nice, but going on from what you said, I imagine there must be so many applicants to that show just doing obviously the same trick. I've always wondered, like, in the audition process, they must have a tally of like, oh, it's that trick again, oh, it's that trick again, oh, it's that trick again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there was one point in there that was really nicely verbalized by Mike Cavaney about the fact that, so we are three actors here and we're talking about movies and everything from that perspective. And he's talking about the fact that, that the audience is judging the whole of magic just based on one single bad magician. And it's not fair because it doesn't really happen with with actors, for instance, and so.
Yeah, no, I think that's just because of how rare it is for people to see magic and how little magicians there are, good magicians are in the world. So, like growing up, I only saw magic maybe once until I got into it, and that's just, most places don't have a lot of magic. It's not easy to find magic shows in most cities.
That's very true. And I mean, with acting, you might have the opposite problem where acting is everywhere, so people think that they can judge very easily.
Well, acting is everywhere. It's on TV, it's in movies, and it's like music as well. It's not like you cannot hear music growing up. The music's on the radio, it's in movies, it's like everywhere. But with magic, you don't have that. Magic isn't everywhere. It's not playing on the radio. It's not, playing on TV all the time.
I think it is also, it's very easy to hear the negative of what people say, because I feel like if you're going to write a review, most people are going to write bad things, or they're going to write or say, I hated it. And the people that loved it or the people that were happy about it don't usually say anything. So you're probably hearing a lot more kind of bad things.
I think that's how it is for everything, but
yeah,
people usually do give great response to magic, and you usually do hear a lot of great responses. Yeah, I don't know. I think if we're talking about magic being popular, there's some countries where magic is popular. There's some countries like Spain where the people know what good magic is like because there's been so many great magicians on television that the people know the difference in between a good magician and a bad magician. But in many places in the world, they don't know the difference. They haven't been exposed to it.
Yeah, there's a good point in the documentary where it's brought up about being in an audience and performing to a group of people that are there for you. It's quite a good segment because I used to work in a theatre as an usher. And I distinctly remember working there on a shift while a comedian's on, and you don't really find the humour because obviously you're doing something else, as opposed to the audience that are there to see you. I feel that even when people go to magic shows, they might say, oh, I'm going to see this magician or this performer, and they bring someone along, and that person is skeptical if it's going to be good or not, or people don't like to be fooled, and that's brought up in the documentary too. So even then, from the beginning, you're already fighting a harder battle because sometimes half your prospective audience are like, well, it's not, I don't believe in magic sort of thing.
They fight against you immediately.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They do and they don't. I think it all depends on the performer. I mean, some people are so charming that they can come out on stage, and even though the whole audience is skeptical, they can just win them over in a few seconds.
Nice.
It all depends, though. There's some people with their persona where it is more challenging to an audience. Everyone's different, I guess.
I think I've only seen the Penn and Teller. What's it called? Fool Us.
Fool Us, yeah.
Yeah, Fool Us.
But what was amazing about that is that you see magic in so many different ways. And I think that people immediately think that, oh, I'm going to, it's magical because something just appeared, or I'm going to make this vanish. And that's not what this is about. It's like there are so many different ways of showing a magic show.
It's like how Mari said at the beginning of the podcast there. I was amazed. It's like there's a festival specifically for card tricks. I'm like, that's such a good point. You don't even think about... You always think magic as a whole. You never think of the subcategories, where with music you've got genres and with acting you've got different styles and methods.
Well, you do have that in magic as well. There are conferences that are only for mind readers. There's conferences that are only for guys who do coin magic. There's conferences for people who only do cards. So we do have these little subgenres in magic, and they are their own little communities.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the one Maddie was referring to is not really about card tricks, is what it's called cardistry now. It's, the moves with the cards.
I see.
Flourishes.
I see.
It was called flourishes before, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, That's just like very cool, fancy shuffling and people springing cards and making
Ah,
cards flip into packets and stuff. It has nothing to do with magic. But I mean, many of the people are, who started it are involved with magic just because they were doing cool little techniques like that in their performances, and then it just grew into its own thing.
I guess any way to add a flair into a trick is always encouraged to bring a bit more personality as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a show, right? So, I mean, it's part of entertainment. Entertainment doesn't need to be, I don't know, like the same.
Yeah. There is a quote by my favorite magician of all time. He was the father of modern magic, and it involves acting and magic. Robert-Houdin, well, the quote is attributed to him anyway. He says, a magician is an actor playing the part of a magician.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. The way this it's funny because so Paul got to Kickstarter to get his project. He got the funds he needed, to start the thing. And he had, at the end of the credits, you've got the producers would like to thank Bit. And at one line is the 480. So at the 480 is one thing he had also in the post-it. He always had somewhere written, you could see it, is the number of people who backed the project. Yeah, 480 people backed that project. And
Wow.
Yeah. The also, I think, was also to go to Paris to interview magicians there because we've got great ones. Gaëtan Bloom is a friend and is really very crazy type. I really adore this guy. And in the end, they ended up using their own money, so they didn't expand on the going into France and everything. But
from what I understand, even though they raised quite a bit of money, I forget how much money they raised. I think it was somewhere in between 60 to 80,000, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the exact amount though. And they ran out of money very quickly just because it's extremely expensive. They were flying to Japan, to the US, to the UK. They were going all over the world to interview these guys. And I know that, I mean, Paul will probably be able to elaborate more since it was coming out of his pocket, but it was very expensive. And I'm just amazed that they could have done it.
yeah, sure. I mean, it's really commendable because, I mean, this clear dedication. I backed, at that point when I backed Our Magic, I probably had like 100 projects I backed, and some of them guys run with the money to use as student repayment stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
So when you've got people who actually use up their own hard-earned cash to finish their projects, just like really, it's great.
Admirable.
It was great that the magic community also contributed to it because Paul, I believe, had this idea for a while, and he had done a lot of interviews before. You can see some of them on his YouTube page, but he wanted to expand on it and make it into a documentary. And I think he knew that it would be expensive and difficult. So him and Dan and Dave and Jason England, and there were a lot of other people behind the scenes who helped out. But I think everybody was so great about getting the word out to the community, and the community just embraced it and really supported the film and made it possible. And I think for magicians, it's also fun for them to show their friends and family, like, oh yeah, this is what I do. It's not just all tricks and stuff. Like, here's these people around the world who are also doing their own thing, and they're very passionate. And it's more than just tricks. It's intellectual. It's historical. It's scientific. It's all these things.
Yeah, it also has to be noted that it was one of his earlier project of that sort. I think he did the Magic Box the year before.
Yeah, it's funny. He did the Magic Box, I think, a year or two before. I'm not too clear on the timeline. But the place that he interviewed me was in that exact room that they filmed the Magic Box in.
Nice.
if you guys look closely at my interview and you look at the background, it's in a magician's kitchen out near Glasgow, and he owns a farm and everything. And so we went down there. And it was a rainy day, and we just did the interview. He maybe has 3 or 4 hours of footage of interview with me, and I'm sure he has a ton of footage with everybody else. I personally would love to see the footage just because it's like a time capsule. It's my thoughts at that point in my life, and there was so much, there's so much that we said and didn't say, and so much that was, captured but not that didn't make it into the final film. I'm sure Paul probably has, I don't know, he probably has over 100 hours of interviews. I'm sure he has. If it's not 100, you can ask him because I'm curious to know, but I'm sure he has a lot.
We'll do our best to do, because this episode is going live on February, because that's the month where one of the biggest magic convention happens, Blackpool.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll try to have him for an Our Magic episode also before February comes.
Yeah.
So I was getting to the point that, the Magic Box, Our Magic, and now he did Con Man after that and just completed I, Solani, which we were able to see the world premiere at the Rain Dance Festival a few months ago.
I'm so jealous. I've been wanting to see Cartman for a while. I finally saw it. He sent it to me, and I was able to watch it. He wanted me to watch it on a big screen, which is how you're supposed to watch these types of films. But I didn't have the chance, and I really wanted to watch it. So after a few months, he just let me watch it. But I hope to see his other films soon. And it's just amazing to me because even when he started doing Our Magic, we talked about. I was talking to him, not in the interview, but just in conversation because we're friends, talking about his life and what he wanted to do, and he's always wanted to make movies all his life, and it's amazing that he can make these really, high quality productions for so little money, and you can do it today with the technology. If you have, people who want to help you, you can really make a decent film without spending millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And as you can see already in the seeds planted in Our Magic, he clearly knows how to tell a story. And we've seen I, Solani, and by the way, Con Man is being screened in Glasgow on the 5th of January, just saying.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so if you're around Glasgow at that time,
Yeah, no, it's funny. Even us, when we were doing Our Magic, if I remember correctly, Paul was just filming wherever we could. So I believe if you watch the movie, there's footage of me in New York because he came to visit New York. There's footage in Spain because we were in Spain together, and there's footage of us in Glasgow where we did the interview, and also in London. And then there's a little bit of footage of me in Toronto as well. Doing stuff with cards. So, but that wasn't filmed by Paul. He didn't come to Toronto to film. But one of my friends helped film me doing some card stuff that ended up in the film. So it's like really just getting this footage wherever you can. And if you watch that section of me in the film, you probably won't know where everything is, but I remember where everything is because, I was there.
Yeah, at one point they also talk about what we call in France marchands de trucs, magic shops.
Yeah.
And they really, they have evolved in, the fact that you used to have a mentor and it was hard to access the secrets. Now, if you go on those, one of the executive producers of Our Magic is Brad Christian, and he's the CEO of one of the greatest online magic stores, Illusionist.
Yeah.
And it's becoming very hype.
Yeah, it's interesting. In Magic, there used to be a process of mentorship. You would have a master or a teacher who would teach you everything, and you would be their student. And it still exists today, but it's very, very hard to find. I've never had a mentor in Magic. I wish that I did, but I've never had somebody who I spent regular time with and who has taught. I've had many people who have taught me many things, but no one that I've really saw on a weekly basis who's really sat down and taught me things. But that, I think, is the ideal way to do it. But it's harder today to find. Most people go to magic shops, or at least I used to go to magic shops, and that's how I sort of did. I would go to the magic shops and meet the guys who, were hanging out, the local magicians, and then they would, show you their magic and you would show them your magic and you would hang out and learn about magic together. But now things are changing. There's less magic shops and more people are learning online, which I don't know. I don't know how good that is to be learning stuff only online, but I guess it's difficult. The world is changing so quickly.
I always think about stuff like that with context to people when people talk about everything's online, so you can read a book wherever, but yet books still exist, and to this day people still publish physical books. So I do feel in a sense that magic shops, and even to the extent for musicians as well, because I know I have friends that are musicians, and they would also there's an experience of when you went to the music store to like buy your instrument for the first time, and you would talk to people that had obviously been playing for years and what sounded best. And that's how you really began to learn a lot about what you were doing. I do think that even though it might be quieter now because the internet's such a big thing now, I do feel that they will always be there and possibly come back. You can't say because you never know where technology is going, but I feel if books have survived this long in time, then actual human interaction is going to carry on, I believe.
Yeah, no, I think that human interaction is very important. And you can see that there's a gap in the magic world. There used to be a lot more magic clubs than there are now. And a lot of the magic clubs have a problem, which is they have a very old membership. Most of their members are senior citizens. And they've had a hard time attracting young people just because the young people are, into different things. And I don't know, the new generation, I guess, doesn't, if you're a young kid learning magic online, it's very rare for one of those kids to start hanging out with a room full of 60-year-old men. So there's sort of been a gap in the magic clubs, and the magic clubs are sort of at a weird spot now where they're dying. And but you see the young kids still getting together and doing their own things because they do want to know other people who are involved in what they're doing, and they do want to hang out. I guess they just don't want it to be so organized and formal.
There's something I noticed in French conventions because it's mostly, the age level is mostly, as you said, also old. But I've also been to Blackpool, as I said earlier, when it's probably one of the, you can't see that in France anyway. You've got at 3 a.m. in the morning after a day of lectures and galas, you go to the bar, the Ruskin there, and you can see up until 5, 6 a.m. like 80-year-old kids like doing card tricks with 12-year-olds or 16-year-olds. It's just great.
That's lovely.
Sounds like some experience, Blackpool, then.
Yeah.
I mean, all I know is that I have, so as we all studied last year, us three together, reading, being asked to read a book and then coming in and actually doing it is so different. So I don't know if there'd be a disconnect. Like, obviously you've got videos and stuff, so you can actually watch someone doing something like, I guess, like a trick or whatever. But just in the context of my experience, I feel like there's a massive disconnect from reading something and then to actually doing it. That's such a different experience, and it's actually probably a lot harder to translate that into motion, like something that you're reading or you're watching, to then actually performing it and having a persona or having like your own twist on it.
Well, and it's one of the problems with books and videos and just doing stuff by yourself. The book doesn't tell you when you're doing something wrong. The computer screen doesn't tell you when you're doing something wrong. Neither does the mirror. Sometimes you really need another person who knows better and who has experience to look at what you're doing and correct you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like also the fact that we talked in earlier episodes that you've got all your techniques and everything, and then you've got when you're in front of real people, you've got the nerves, and that's the moment you tend to forget everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why rehearsal is so important, because you have to be so solid on that to then when you're actually doing it on stage and you've got the added adrenaline and nerves, then it's still in your head somehow because you've done it so much.
Yeah, and it's not only memorizing it, it's doing it the right way. So I think it's very difficult for the younger magicians who are learning stuff because they can be doing stuff for years and not know that they're doing it incorrectly.
Yes, it's like those 10,000 hours. Yeah, you could become a master, but if starting from the first hour you did it incorrectly, yeah, well, you won't be a master at anything. Yeah.
Well, you're going to be a master of doing it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's like if because it is very physical and the technique is very precise. It's like if you went to, if it's like you want to learn martial arts, but you are only practicing in front of your own mirror. And then, let's say you're practicing for X amount of hours, you go in front of a real master and you think that you can do it right just because you've been practicing every day. And the master tells you, no, this is wrong. And it's all about making these small adjustments and doing it the right way.
Good point.
That's true. Yeah. So to get back on the actual documentary a bit, what I really liked, and it's really, you can hear that most I felt during the opening credits, the majority of the score was composed. And I really loved the opening music with the credits.
I thought the end credits music was really good as well. It was like a crescendo. So it's like you could feel everything because it came together, because it's like you go from the technical side and then it becomes emotional, like how people were saying that, that it's like a way of life, and it makes them feel good and it makes the audience feel good. It's like it was like a step from how to do things and where to go and, all the practical, to then go to how it makes people feel.
Yeah,
Nice step.
the music in the film is really beautiful. And as far as I know, you have to ask Paul for more information, but I believe that the whole soundtrack is made by a friend of Paul's who composed a soundtrack for a play about Houdini. And I don't know if the play was made or not, but I believe that Paul got permission to use that music in the film, and it just fits perfectly.
Yeah, I watched because it says the original music by Jonathan Astor and Howard Berman, but indeed there was one or two tracks who talked about this Houdini. I thought it was a thing that was actually, it was extracted, but it says in the credits the Houdini thing. Yeah.
Wow.
I noticed something rather interesting. You know that there are loads of magicians, but like I would say, well, it's pejorative, but like closeted magicians, like celebs who are also pro magicians. And there is a producer in there who's called Larry Fong, who is a cinematographer on DC movies. Like I think he was the cinematographer on Batman v Superman and those.
Yeah, Larry Fong is amazing at what he does. He makes movies, and he's a cinematographer, and he's worked on the film 300. He's worked on the new King Kong movie. He's worked on like so many big Hollywood movies, the Batman versus Superman, the Superman movies. Just many of the big films that are really visual. He worked on Watchmen, and he's also a magician, and I believe he also helped out to make the movie in some way. I'm not too sure on what his involvement was, but I know that he's a friend.
I think he helped with the money, I think, but like in the final stages of the rewards in the Kickstarter, you could give 10,000. Well, I have no idea, but I think.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Also celebs. So there are celebs I knew were magicians, but obviously never met, like Orson Welles and Johnny Carson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never met them, but I know who they are.
Some I know of and met, and I really love those. Steve Valentine, who was at MagicCon, and Andy Nyman, I've seen a lecture. I really got into Steve Valentine. He, in The Walk, he was the insider man with the stash guy. I talked about him earlier.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's great at what he does.
Very good. And Andy Nyman, who's director with Darren Brown, and very good, a nice theatrical actor, and also movies. And some I didn't know about, like Bill Bixby.
Okay.
So I think that's the original Bruce Banner. So yeah, you had Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk, and the original Bruce Banner was Bill Bixby, was a magician. Steve Martin and Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
I knew about Steve Martin. Yeah.
Really?
Didn't know Muhammad Ali.
A lot of these guys, there's a lot of people in different industries who have been involved in magic.
Yeah. Neil Patrick Harris, obviously, he was president of the Academy of the Magical Arts, the Magic Castle, a few years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yep. Those guys, there's a lot of guys like that who have dipped their toes in magic.
Oh, in terms of magicians that we saw in the thingy, I've always loved, and that's also why I am so sad that we lost Eugene Berger a few months ago. I was always more interested into the storytelling aspect and to the history and collection. So I really like John Gone and William Kalush in there. I've never had the opportunity to go see a collection yet, but hopefully I will. Probably the David Copperfield one. It's just a massive one, like he has a secret museum in Vegas, I think.
Of course he does.
In Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Nice. Let's go to Vegas, guys.
I've never been to Copperfield's collection, but I'd like to go one day.
Yeah, let's go.
Max Maven, obviously, with the red nose at the end and all the... yeah, I think you liked Max Maven, yeah.
He's funny.
Yeah, Max Maven is a funny guy. Although he's very serious a lot of the times.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes people so funny, like, because they're so serious and you're like, oh, you must be joking. And then you realise they're not, but it's still like there's an element of humour in it.
Yeah.
And there was also a gentleman named Richard Kaufman, who is the editor-in-chief at the Genie magazine, and he publishes a lot of magic books.
Yep.
I've sent a lot of money to that person.
He's done a lot for magic, Richard Kaufman.
And Richard Wiseman, yeah, I saw you liked him, with the Quirkology, the little car moving.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was so clever. And like when they tell you how they do it, it's so simple and so lovely. But like, whoa, you don't even think that was what was going on, which I think is so nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff like that. There's a TV show that I was just doing called Impossible in Portugal. And every single week they had a pre-recorded section of the show with these different optical illusion experiments almost, where there was this famous magician, Luis Pedrahita, doing a magic effect, but using a very non-traditional method. And then the audience would have to try to guess through multiple selection what the method was, and then vote. And then after they were done voting, they would show like a behind the scenes how they actually perform the effect. So for instance, in one of the segments, you see Luis bending a spoon with his mind, and then they show how it was done, where he's holding the spoon, and then there's somebody underneath the table with like this blowtorch, and they're burning the spoon and secretly at an angle, and the spoon is melting, so it's slowly bending. So it's really funny.
That's great.
We had a version of that with Gaëtan Bloom in France.
Oh, great.
Yes.
That's really funny.
We also had, obviously, Juan Tamariz and his Seven Veils.
Yeah, that was a really cool part of the movie for me. I think that might be my favorite part.
He speaks so lovingly. He's so charming. Like you just want to watch him all day. Just the way that he speaks and the way that he expresses himself is just so charming.
Very inviting personality.
Yeah.
Well, he has a whole book on the Seven Veils, which I haven't read because I want to improve my Spanish to actually read the real thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, yeah, we would say it's a pretext. I could read in French but I'm almost there.
Nice.
Okay, awesome. I'm still waiting for the English version.
There was also someone who is very secretive, but I think is one of the greatest thinkers Michael Weber.
Yeah, Michael Weber is in there, and he talks a little bit. Michael Weber is very smart.
Yeah, I'll show you who it is again when we watch it. And you talked about Juan Esteban Varela before. Actually, during the Edinburgh Fringe Festival this year, he brought his Magic in the Dark show. So I had the occasion to go see it with Pammy.
That's great.
Really?
What did you think?
It was really, really nice. The thing is, I thought watching the documentary that he actually was blind for some reason.
Yeah, in the beginning, yes, I thought that's why he did what he did, because he was blind himself and he'd kind of tried to find a way that he could also enjoy and other people could enjoy magic when they, but then, it was very obvious he wasn't.
Yeah, but it was a bit weird when I came to see him. Yeah, I saw you in the documentary and everything, and I didn't know where to look, like And it was really, really a nice sensory experience. I mean, obviously it worked, and you've got the story about the princess, like the sister of the King of Spain, who for the first time she knew what the vanishing was thanks to that show. So
because she'd always been blind, so she didn't know what vanishing was. That's such a nice story.
Yeah, I obviously can't name everyone, but I will go with Rob Zabrecky next, because he is the lead, I think, in Darkfall, which is the one of Paul's project, which is coming at some point. Rob Zabrecky does probably what I would call the equivalent of deadpan comedy, so deadpan magic, probably. And we'll put a link to his show, because there are legal links where you can see his show. It's just, I've seen it I think twice live. It's just incredibly, it's great.
I like deadpan.
Also interviewed was the Mike Elizalde, the Academy Award nominated prosthetic makeup designer, animatronics puppeteer, who is on the Darkfall team also.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
I'm the thumbnail for that.
Yes, yes. We'll also.
Yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah, we re-watched this the other day. If you go into Vimeo, you can see Anouk's first ever experience on camera.
On camera,
yeah. That was me and you's first go at it.
Yeah. Well, the three of us were in the trailer.
Yeah, you're eating wings.
Eating chicken wings.
We'll share that trailer. It's a rather nice.
I just really hope there is a future for Darkfall, because it sounded so interesting. And
it's also shot on film, which is quite rare. So yeah. On Darkfall, the composer is the same as the one in Isolani. So we know that's good.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Paul Wilson was such a joy to work with. He's such a lovely person.
Oh yeah. To talk about the brotherhood aspect of magic, I have a story interesting. Like Eric Mead talked about a collection of people at one point. It's very real, because there is this IBM, which is not related to computer. It's International Brotherhood of Magicians. And I think it was a few years ago, as I've subscribed, you don't have to, most magic clubs and like the Magic Circle, or probably your local magic club, or you have to, actually I think it's moving in some different directions now, but you have to have kind of a test. And for the IBM, you just have to pay every month, every year. And so I'm a member of that. And as I'm a member, I'm in the directory. And at one point 2 years ago, a gentleman from Canada contacted me asking me, if I could help out with if he could crash at my place with his daughter, because they were doing a tour. His daughter had a scholarship to visit Europe and everything for an art project. And the name of the guy was and still is Lothar Malmberg. He's been doing some a kind of a Renaissance magic, bizarre, the storytelling I love. So, and we had a very nice time. I showed them around my Provence place, so it was a very nice magicians. We talked the magic a bit, and it was. There's always interesting stories of magicians getting together for some weird random reasons. There was one really touching moment. We talked about Rob Zabrecky just now. There is a touching stories in there with Rob Zabrecky and Stephen Bagazzi, I think is the name. Because Rob Zabrecky was the lead singer. He was a lead singer, and he wasn't working out or something. I don't remember exactly. And Stephen Bargazzi, magic saved both of their lives, and I thought those two stories were quite touching, actually.
Really nice.
Did you notice there is a Rabbi Burns quote in there?
I should have noticed.
In Scots, well, I had to watch it a few times because it was weird. So it was written in Scots first and then in English.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember what the quote is, but I say, that's, well, you see that Paul is from Scotland.
Probably wasn't from an ode to haggis. Great chieftain of the pudding race.
No, it was not. I don't remember.
Fancy sausage aye, something like that.
I loved the way the frame was composed. Like, it felt like it was way more visible than others with Max Maven, where you had the mirror and the chandelier reflecting, and also Bill Kalush, where you could see in the forefront like blurry books. I felt like I have to ask Paul about that when we have him on. The frame was composed to reflect the personality of the performer that was actually on the screen. I just thought about this like when I watched it yesterday. What do you feel? Do you have what do you think?
Oh, in the interview where you see...
In every time we saw, so yeah, as Mahdi just said, like, Paul like filmed chunks with people and only used bits. But,
yeah.
I mean, the framing in some of them looked as if it was meant to reflect the personality of the interviewee. Because you see, Max Maven is quite different, and you could see definitely like the plain background with a mirror, and it was a bit odd, and he's kind of an odd guy if you think about it.
Abstract.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. And or something was connected to like what they did or what was their favorite thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know names, so apologies for that. But the guy that was in front of the books, obviously he talked about magic books and how important they are.
The collect, I think it was like one of the
William
collectors.
Kalush.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice because then he could just talk about something, but it's behind him, and it was quite nice. And the guy that was like in front of the very kind of guilt-wrought mirror.
I know who you mean. I'm just trying to remember.
Oh, he was the guy that was in the band.
Rob Zabrecki, yeah.
Yeah. He kind of had it looked like he was in a palace. Like a really, really nice room, but very spacious.
Indeed. So I think we should talk now about, use you guys, about exposure. How do you feel about this? I mean, well, you obviously there is no point really in, as it once said at one point, like getting the punchline in advance and going to Google stuff or afterwards. How do you feel about someone like the masked magician ruining the stuff for you? How do you feel about this?
I don't know. I used to have a lot more strong feelings on it, but now I just don't care. I just really, I don't care because I just want to focus on performing good magic, and, that stuff I can't change. If somebody wants to try to explain how something works, they can do that, and there's nothing I can do to stop them. I don't agree with it. I think it's pretty stupid. I think the people, who waste their time trying to expose magic tricks, to do that, you must really not have a life.
That's true.
Like,
sad.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like, that there's some guy at home and all he wants to do is explain how magic trick works. It's, I don't know, it's just sad. I'd rather want to show people magic and, give them that experience than do what those people are doing, which I think is, just such a low. I don't even think it's an experience. It's just a waste of time. Because when people watch that, they might be able to look at the trick and say, okay, that's how it works. But they don't remember and it doesn't really matter to them. I don't think people are really curious as to how magic works. I don't think they really want to know. I don't think they care how it works.
Yeah, that's very true.
There's a good quote that I quite like by Bernard Shaw about there are two tragedies in life. One is to never achieve your goals, and the other is to achieve it. And I sometimes think about that in reference to, especially when it comes to stuff like this, because part of the fun of magic is the awe and like, oh, how did they do that? And you make up your own narrative of how the trick is done, and that's how and if you see the same trick again, you apply that narrative and you see if it works, and you see other things. When you know the answer, it's never interesting. You turn off and it takes away. So and to go with, I'm assuming the guy puts it on the internet or writes a book or whatever. I'm like, that's not going to last. I mean, people are still going to see magic.
It's not even from the people who are creating the magic tricks. It's just like some random people. Like, in movies, there's a lot of special effects. And sometimes as an extra in the DVDs and stuff, they'll show like behind the scenes how they made special effects, how they did this in the movie. And it's interesting because it's the people who are making the film wanting to show people a little bit behind the scenes of, the magic of the movies. The people exposing magic, it's like, imagine if you went to go see, I don't know, let's name any movie. What is a recent movie with, let's say Lord of the Rings, okay? Although that's not so recent, but let's get to Lord of the Rings. Let's say you were to go see that movie, and then some guy on the internet randomly made like some videos, and he's not involved with the movie at all. He doesn't know anybody who works for the movie. He's just some random guy, and he's showing you behind the scenes like how he would shoot the film with those what angles he would use, how he would, create the special effects, except for he doesn't know anything. He's not, he's not a filmmaker. It's just a random guy showing like his expose of the Lord of the Rings. And like, that's how I feel about the people exposing magic. Like, they don't actually know anything. They just have an idea that they want to present to people, and I don't know why they want to present it. Maybe it makes them, I don't know. I really don't get it.
Yeah, it's being said a few times. If indeed in the Our Magic, they just don't know what they're talking about. So it's just like, I mean, someone with a minimum of interest would realize that it's just plain, it's vain. I mean, you just have to be in the circle to be in there to understand that it's much more than that.
Yeah, I feel like if I knew how a magic trick was done, I'd still enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Like, even in the back of your mind, if you knew how someone did something just because of your experience, or I don't know, you're a magician yourself, like, it doesn't mean that you don't enjoy it. So,
well, guys like Penn and Teller expose magic. Sometimes, but they do it to create an experience. They expose the cups and balls. So they do the trick with clear cups, so you can see through the cups. And they do it, and they show you it first with cups that are solid. You can't see through them, and they do the same thing with clear cups. But it adds to the experience because of the presentation that they've created. They're creating a new experience, and exposing it gives you a deeper appreciation for what they're doing. It doesn't make you it's not just exposing it for exposing its sake. It's to build, it's to create an experience for you. And I feel like most of the people exposing magic are not trying to create an experience. They're just trying to show you how something works, but they don't even know how it works because they're not a magician.
Oh dear.
Yeah, well, magicians is mostly about, you obviously got skills, but there's a lot of storytelling, and if you're exposing some stuff, you've got absolutely no idea about how a story works, obviously. Yeah,
it's like how, in the documentary, he showed how he did the red card trick with the car. And how the car follows the black line, and like that didn't make you feel, why did he do that? Like, I wanted to keep that a secret, but it was because it was him. He was telling you how he did his own trick, so it was like it was justified somehow.
Yeah, and it's, building an experience. It's complicated, but I don't know. I think it's about building an experience for people. And when you don't have that and you're just trying to show the secret, I think it's a little sad.
Yeah, it's sad.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
I agree.
I think we could go. We introduced some time ago a questionnaire, so I think we should go into that.
Yeah,
so
go for it.
I have now what I call Milk in a Wineglass questionnaire. So Milk in a Wineglass is the name of our production company. That's a questionnaire based on the Marcel Proust, Bernard Pivot, and James Lipton. The questions that used to be asked by the Inside the Actor Studio host. So I have some questions for you, Mahdi.
Okay.
What is your favorite word?
Oh, God. Oh, goodness. What is my favorite word? I was not prepared for this.
Abracadabra.
My favorite word, yes. Yes is my favorite word. I love it when I just hear yes. Like if I, I love to hear yes. My least favorite word is no.
Yeah, you understood the question I didn't ask. Great. So awesome. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
When I hear yes,
Okay, so what turns you off?
when I hear no.
It's very easy, this questionnaire.
What is your favorite curse word?
I don't know. I try not to curse.
That's good.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Maybe are we allowed to swear on this? No, I don't swear. I don't know. I don't really curse. I try not to curse. I don't have a favorite curse word.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Yeah. What sound or noise do you like?
The sound of silence.
Okay. What sound or noise do you dislike?
Laughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is not a real quiz.
Okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I don't know. I don't know anything about money, but I always like to watch movies about Wall Street, and I would love to be on Wall Street one day, just like on the phone, closing deals, slamming that phone down, popping champagne.
Sounds great.
Become a wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What profession other than your own would you not like to attempt?
I don't know, anything on a farm, really.
Oh dear.
Okay. Just two left. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Come in.
Hello.
Awesome. If you were reincarnated as some other plant or animal, what would it be?
I would usually want to say bird because birds, seem to have so much freedom, but the bird's life is pretty not great in a lot of ways because it's always outside. I don't know. I'd like to be something that has like a little burrow so that during the winter, whenever it gets cold, I can just dig myself a hole and hibernate. I don't know.
A squirrel?
No, not a squirrel. It's not noble enough. I don't know which animal I'm trying to think of.
Like a polar bear?
A badger.
Do they do that?
Badgers are quite regal.
Maybe a dog.
A dog.
Dog.
Maybe so I could just like I don't want to have to live outside.
Okay.
Cat.
A
then.
domesticated dog.
Yeah, domesticated dog or cat.
Awesome. Do you have anything to add to the about our magic?
I think people should watch it, and after they watch it, go and try to see magic in real life. Although it is hard to find magic shows in some cities, I think everybody should see magic at least once in their life. Real magic by a good magician. So maybe if that is taking a trip to Las Vegas and seeing David Copperfield or one of the big shows like that, or going to another city and seeing another magic show if there's no great magicians near you, because it really is an amazing experience when you're really fooled by something. When you see something that is completely impossible, it's I don't know, it's really special, and I think everybody should have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very true, actually. And I often say that filmed theater doesn't work for a vast majority of reasons, but actually, magic, because most of the time it's like it's directed, the camera, so all the misdirection aspect is left out, except if you have a magician who knows exactly how to work with cameras, like Paul Daniels was. You could be easily cut and exposed and whatever. So yeah, live, just theater, just like real magic and the show. I'll always go for that at any moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's plugging time. France.
Scotland.
England.
Canada.
Go podcast rangers. Mighty plug-in podcast rangers. Go podcast rangers. Mighty plug-in podcast rangers. So, Mahdi.
Yes.
Are you working on anything currently?
I am. I'm working on a couple stuff. I'm working on a show that I'm doing it in a couple places. I'm doing a few festivals. One coming up in France, in Champagne,
Oh,
and that will be in January. I'm not too sure the exact dates. I think the 17th to the 20th. Then I'm also doing the same show in London, I believe, from January 31st to February 5th. And I am also working on a deck of cards. So
Cool.
that is just finished and it'll be printed soon. So you guys can find out more about that soon. And if people want to reach me, you can just go to my website, maddythemagician.com, and find me there.
okay.
Cool.
Well, that's great. I'll check those dates because I think I'm in France. Provence is far away from Champagne, but the dates you gave us, I'm supposed to be in France when you're doing.
We might be in.
You might be in London.
We'll be in
too,
London if we're seeing the room on the 5th.
Yeah,
or 6th,
well,
then
we'll definitely communicate, and I'd love for you guys to come see it.
Yeah,
I think London is a good show. Actually.
we might be in London on those dates. So
Great. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Just one thing, by the way, Maddie, the
Yeah.
the Vernon book on Malini, I have a copy.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
We'll talk.
yeah. So thank you very much for being on the show.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we'll put all those links when we release the episode, and we'll make sure to check you out before you do the. Yeah, so if we could go see your shows in February. So yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you again, and we were
Adam.
Anouk.
Yann and
Maddie.
bye bye.
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 Bye.